Let's be honest for a second. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow? Or maybe next week is better? Or I just need to feel a little more ready? Hello, my friend. Welcome to this journey. I'm Peter, your host here on the English Talk Show, your favorite place to relax, reflect, and practice real English listening with powerful messages that feed both your mind and your soul. If you're new here, let me say this. You're in the right place. This podcast was created for people just like you, people who want to learn English in a natural, meaningful, and inspiring way. Because listening is one of the most powerful and underrated tools you have when it comes to learning a language. And the more you listen, the more your brain adapts, understands, and grows in fluency. So here's what I want you to do. Put on your headphones, get comfortable on the couch, or simply keep doing whatever you're doing and just let the words flow into your mind. You don't need to understand every single word. Just feel the rhythm. Let it sink in. This is your time. And hey, if you enjoy this kind of content, please make sure to subscribe, like, and share this episode with someone who needs a little motivation today. It really helps the channel, and it tells me you want more episodes like this one. Now, if you're listening to this right now, there's a part of you that's hungry for change, a part of you that knows, deep down, that there's something you need to do, something you want to start, but you've been waiting. Maybe you've been waiting for the right moment, or for more confidence, or for everything to be perfect. But I want to tell you something important, something that might just change your life. The perfect moment will never come. You will never feel fully ready, and that's okay. This episode is not just a motivational talk. It's a deep conversation, you and me, about why you must start before you're ready, and how that one decision can unlock everything you've been hoping for. We're going to talk about fear, about self-doubt, about failure. But more importantly, we're going to talk about courage, about taking the first step, even if your hands are shaking, about doing the thing before you feel ready. Because readiness is not a feeling. Readiness is a choice. Throughout this episode, I'm going to walk beside you, one step at a time, and together we're going to explore why waiting is the biggest trap, and how action, even small, uncertain action, is what actually moves your life forward. If you stay with me until the end, here's my promise to you. You will leave this episode not only believing you can start, but feeling like you must, because your dreams are not waiting for you to be ready. They're waiting for you to begin. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's start this powerful journey together. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Readiness. Let me start with a simple question, something that might feel familiar to you. How many times have you told yourself, I'm going to do it, but not right now? I'll wait until I feel ready. Maybe you've said this about starting a new project. Maybe about learning English seriously. Maybe about going after a better job, or moving to a different place, or even just doing something you've always wanted to try, something personal, something meaningful. And yet, you waited. You didn't take that step, not because you didn't care, not because it wasn't important to you, but because you truly believed that you weren't ready yet. You were waiting for that magical moment, that feeling of clarity, of confidence, of being 100% sure that now is the time.
But here's something powerful that I want you to really think about. What if that feeling, that idea of being ready, is just an illusion? What if readiness is not something that arrives like a notification on your phone, but something we've invented in our minds to avoid the discomfort of starting before we're comfortable? You see, most people, and I include myself here, have been raised to believe that we need to feel fully prepared before we act. That somehow, one day we'll wake up and everything will be aligned. Our emotions, our energy, our confidence, our circumstances, that we'll feel brave, motivated, calm, focused, and then we'll finally begin. But let me tell you something I've learned through my own experience and from listening to hundreds of stories. That moment doesn't really exist. It's a lie we've been told. And not because people are trying to deceive us. No, it's deeper than that. It's a form of protection. It's fear, quietly whispering in our ear, "Wait, not yet. You're not ready." But here's the truth. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is just part of the process. Real change, real growth, rarely comes when you feel completely prepared. In fact, most of the time, the most important moments in your life will show up when you're still full of doubt, still feeling nervous, still questioning yourself. And that's okay. You're not supposed to have all the answers before you begin. You're not supposed to feel 100% confident before taking the first step. Because confidence isn't a requirement. It's a result. It comes after. It's built step by step, one small action at a time. Think about it. Was there ever a truly important decision in your life that felt completely safe and easy before you made it? Probably not. And yet here you are, still standing, still learning, still growing. So why do we wait for this perfect feeling of readiness when we already know, deep down, that it's not how life works? You see, waiting to feel ready is a very smart way to avoid discomfort. It feels responsible. It feels safe. It sounds like a good plan. But most of the time, it's just fear wearing a mask. Fear pretending to be logic. Fear pretending to be strategy. Fear telling you that it's better to wait and think than to act and grow. But growth doesn't come from thinking. Growth comes from doing.
I know this isn't easy. I know the voice in your head that says, "What if I fail? What if people laugh? What if I'm not good enough?" I know that voice well. It lives in all of us. But what I've learned is that fear is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you're stepping into something meaningful. Fear shows up not when we're doing something wrong, but when we're doing something that matters. It means you're on the edge of something new, something unfamiliar, and that's exactly where you need to be. We've been taught to wait until we're not scared anymore before we start. But the truth is, we have to start while we're scared. We have to move with the fear. We have to carry the fear with us, not as a wall to stop us, but as a companion on the journey. Because action is the only thing that can change our state. Action is what builds momentum. Action is what creates experience. Action is what shows you that you are, in fact, more ready than you think. Let me put it another way. You don't become confident first and then speak English. You speak English first, badly, imperfectly, slowly, and then you become confident.
You don't wait until you feel completely capable before you take the job. You take the job, and then you learn, adapt, and grow into the person who can handle it. This is how every single person in the world has grown. This is how we all begin, unsure, nervous, and imperfect. And here's the beautiful part. The moment you stop waiting and start acting, even if it's messy, even if it's awkward, something inside you begins to shift. You stop identifying as the person who's trying, or waiting, or thinking about it, and you start becoming the person who does. And that identity, the identity of a person who acts even before they're ready, is one of the most powerful things you can ever build. So, I want to ask you, gently but directly, what is one thing in your life right now that you've been putting off simply because you don't feel ready? Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's a decision. Maybe it's finally committing to your English practice. Whatever it is, I want you to imagine something, just for a moment. Imagine what would happen if you let go of the idea that you need to feel ready and simply chose to begin. Not to finish, not to succeed perfectly, just to begin. Because the truth is, no one is ever truly ready for the biggest things in life. Not when they start, not in the beginning. But that doesn't matter, because readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. And once you decide to move, once you take that first step, even if it's small, you will begin to find strength you didn't know you had. You will discover that action creates clarity, that courage grows through use, that the road becomes visible only after you start walking. And most of all, you'll realize that you were never waiting to be ready. You were waiting to believe that starting without feeling ready is exactly how it's supposed to be. Chapter 2. Fear is not the enemy. Fear. It's a feeling we all know intimately, yet few of us are ever taught how to truly understand it. Most people grow up believing that fear is something negative, something that should be avoided, controlled, or silenced. From a young age, we hear things like, "Don't be scared," or "Be brave," as if fear and bravery couldn't possibly live in the same space. But what if that idea is completely wrong? What if fear isn't something you need to run away from, but something you can walk with? What if fear is not the obstacle, but actually a signpost that you're on the path to something meaningful? The truth is, fear only shows up when something matters. It appears when you're about to try something new, speak in a second language, share your thoughts with others, or take a step that feels bigger than what you're used to. It's easy to believe that fear means stop, but more often it means pay attention. It means you're stepping into a moment that has the power to shape you. Growth doesn't come in comfort. It comes when you are uncomfortable, uncertain, and yes, afraid. That's why fear is not the enemy. Fear is the evidence that you're reaching beyond what is safe and familiar. Think about it. The moments that made you stronger in life were probably not the easiest ones. They were likely the moments that scared you, challenged you, or stretched you. The same is true with learning English or doing anything new, really. When you feel fear before speaking up, before trying to write or record yourself, or before starting a conversation, you are actually standing at the doorway of transformation. And while many people turn around at that doorway, telling themselves they're not ready or good enough, you have another option. You can choose to walk through it, not without fear, but with it. And that choice makes all the difference. Fear feels uncomfortable, yes, but it's also natural. It's a sign your brain is trying to protect you from possible failure, from embarrassment, from pain. That's what the human brain does. It tries to keep you safe. But in the modern world, safety isn't about escaping danger. It's about avoiding judgment, rejection, or making mistakes. And here's the thing, mistakes are not danger. Speaking imperfectly is not danger. Being laughed at while uncomfortable is not danger. They are simply part of learning. They are signs of effort. And when you understand that fear is just your brain trying to shield you from something it thinks is harmful, you can thank it and move forward anyway. Picture fear not as a wall in your path, but as a traveling companion. It's in the car with you, yes, but it's not driving. You are. Fear can talk. It can shout. It can try to take control. But ultimately, you decide the direction. Every time you choose to act in spite of fear, whether it's speaking one sentence out loud or introducing yourself to someone, you prove to yourself that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action taken while afraid.
And something amazing happens when you begin to face your fears consistently. They lose their power. The more often you step into situations that scare you a little, the more your brain learns that these situations aren't dangerous. Over time, what once felt terrifying begins to feel manageable. You stretch your comfort zone little by little, and soon you find yourself doing things you never imagined you could. But we must be honest, this process isn't always fast, and it's not always smooth. There will be moments when the fear feels overwhelming, when your voice shakes, your palms sweat, and your thoughts get stuck. That's normal. That's human. The goal is not to eliminate fear completely. The goal is to build a new relationship with it, to stop letting it be the decision maker and start treating it like background noise. So the next time you feel afraid to speak, afraid to try, afraid to be seen, pause. Take a breath. Notice the fear. Acknowledge it. And then ask yourself, what does this fear say about me? Most of the time, the answer is beautiful. It says that you care. It says that you want to grow. It says that you're trying. And that's not weakness. That's bravery in its purest form. The truth is, nobody becomes fluent in a language, confident in a new skill, or successful in a new path without fear. Fear walked with them too. The difference is that they didn't wait for it to go away. They simply learned to keep moving, even while it followed close behind. You don't need to be fearless to speak English. You need to be willing. Willing to feel fear, to make mistakes, to be imperfect, and to keep showing up anyway. That's how fluency is built. That's how confidence is created, not by magic, but by effort. Real, honest effort. Day by day, word by word, step by step. Let fear be your teacher, not your master. Let it remind you that you're on the edge of growth. Let it be the sign that what you're doing matters. And when that voice of fear starts to rise inside you, saying, "Don't do it. You're not ready. You'll fail," answer it with something stronger. "I'm doing it anyway." Because you are not here to live a small life. You are not here to be silent, hidden, or afraid. You are here to become more, and the path to more always runs through fear. Walk it bravely. Not because you're never afraid, but because you've learned that fear is simply the shadow of your courage. If you're still here, it shows you truly care about learning and improving your English through listening. So please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. It shows you value our work, and it gives us the motivation to keep creating more for you.
Chapter 3. The Myth of the Perfect Moment. Let's be honest for a second. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," or "maybe next week is better," or "I just need to feel a little more ready"? We've all been there, waiting, postponing, hoping that one day, magically, the stars will align and we'll feel completely confident, completely prepared, and completely fearless. But let me tell you something important, and I hope you really hear this. That perfect moment, it doesn't exist. It's a myth, a fantasy we create in our minds to protect ourselves from discomfort, from fear, from the unknown. We imagine there's this magical time when everything will feel easy and natural. But the truth is, the only moment we ever really have is now. So many people wait for the right time to start learning English. They say things like, "I'll begin when I have more free time," or "I'll study when I can afford a course," or "I'll practice speaking when I feel more confident." But the irony is that confidence comes from doing, not from waiting. Fluency grows from practice, not from planning. And time never arrives with a red carpet and a sign that says, "Now it's perfect." Time just keeps moving. And if we're always waiting for perfect conditions, we'll wait forever. Think about it. If you had started last year, where would you be today? If you had said yes to that tiny first step, how much progress could you have made by now? The truth is, small steps taken now are more powerful than big dreams delayed until someday. The perfect moment isn't something you wait for. It's something you create. Yes, you might be busy. Yes, you might feel tired or uncertain or afraid of making mistakes, but none of that disqualifies you from starting. You don't need a perfect plan or perfect grammar or perfect pronunciation to begin. You just need one thing: action. Even messy, awkward, imperfect action is better than standing still.
Let's say you have 10 minutes today. That's enough. 10 minutes of listening to English, practicing a few phrases, reading something simple, or just thinking in English. Those minutes matter. And when you add them up, day after day, they become something powerful, like drops of water filling a bucket. Slowly, consistently, until one day you look back and realize how far you've come. Some people imagine that fluent English speakers were always confident, that they were somehow born with a talent for languages. But that's not true. Behind every confident speaker is a long journey filled with mistakes, embarrassment, repetition, and learning. The difference is they didn't wait for perfect. They started anyway. They spoke even when they were afraid. They kept going even when they didn't feel ready. And the beautiful thing is this: the moment you stop chasing perfection and start embracing progress, everything changes. You become free, free to grow, free to try, free to be human. Because perfection is rigid, cold and unreachable. But progress is alive, flexible, and forgiving. Progress says, come as you are. Just begin. So if you're still waiting for that magical moment to begin, this is it. This is your sign. You don't need to wait until your schedule is clear. You don't need to wait until you feel brave. You don't need to wait until someone gives you permission. The only permission you need is your own. And if you give yourself just one chance, you might be surprised by what you're capable of. You see, learning English, like any meaningful journey, isn't about waiting for the perfect wave. It's about grabbing your board and paddling out anyway. Even if the water is choppy, even if you fall off, because the more you show up, the stronger you get. The more you try, the more you learn. And before you know it, you're riding waves you once thought were impossible. So don't let the myth of the perfect moment hold you back. Choose now. Choose progress. Choose movement. And trust that even small steps can lead you somewhere big. The moment you start, imperfectly, bravely, and honestly, is the moment you start to change your life.
Chapter 4. Small Steps, Big Shift. Sometimes we think that in order to change our lives, we need to do something huge. We imagine a complete transformation, something dramatic, fast, powerful. And because of that, we often feel overwhelmed before we even start. How can I become fluent? How can I speak like a native? How can I ever feel confident in English? These questions can feel so big that they freeze us. But what if I told you that real change doesn't come from giant leaps? It comes from tiny, consistent steps. Yes, small steps. Simple actions done again and again. That's where the magic happens. You see, every great journey begins with a single move forward. Not with perfection, not with a perfect plan, but with a decision to start. Think about it like this. A tree doesn't grow overnight. It begins with a tiny seed, invisible, almost nothing. But under the surface, something is happening, slowly, quietly. That seed becomes roots. The roots become a stem. And one day you see leaves, then a tree, then fruit. That's how transformation works, especially when learning a new language. The progress you don't see at first is still real. It's happening inside you. Let's take a simple example. 5 minutes of listening to English a day. That doesn't sound like much, right? You might even think it's too little to matter. But 5 minutes today, 5 minutes tomorrow, 5 minutes the next day, over time, that's hours and hours of listening. And those hours build your ear. They build your brain's connection to English. They give you confidence. They help you understand more, feel more natural, speak more easily. One small step creates a ripple effect, and that ripple can become a wave.
Here's another example. Let's say every time you hear a new word, you write it down and say it aloud. Just one word a day. That's 30 words in a month, 365 in a year. And not just words on a page, words you've heard, spoken, repeated, remembered. That is powerful. That is progress. Not fast, not flashy, but deep, real, sustainable. and most importantly, yours. The reason small steps work is because they are easy to repeat. They don't require special motivation or perfect conditions. You don't have to change your whole life. You don't have to quit your job or move to a different country. You just do one thing today, then another tomorrow. And when you keep showing up, you start to feel different. You start to believe, I can do this. And that belief, that quiet confidence, is what creates big shifts. Most people give up not because they're lazy or because they can't learn, but because they expect too much too soon. They want fast results. They want to feel fluent immediately. And when they don't, they feel like a failure. But language learning is not an instant process. It's not a race. It's a rhythm. And the people who succeed are not the ones who try to do everything at once. They're the ones who keep going even when the progress feels slow. So if you ever feel like you're not moving fast enough, I want you to stop and ask, did I show up today? Did I do one small thing to get closer to my goal? If the answer is yes, then you're winning, you're growing, you're on the path. And I promise, if you keep going, one day you'll look back and be amazed at how far you've come, not because of one big moment, but because of hundreds of small ones. Remember, mountains are climbed one step at a time. Books are written one word at a time. And fluency is built one sentence at a time. The key is not to do everything. It's to keep doing something. Keep showing up. Keep listening. Keep practicing, even when it feels small, even when you feel stuck, because every small step you take sends a message to your brain. This matters. This is who I am. I am becoming the kind of person who doesn't quit. And that shift inside your mind, your heart, your daily habits is what changes everything.
Chapter 5. Action creates clarity. We often wait for the perfect plan before we begin. We want to feel 100% ready. We want to be sure of what to do, how to do it, and when exactly to start. And so we sit still. We analyze. We think. We imagine. We read more. We watch more. We take notes. But here's the truth. Clarity rarely comes before action. It comes through action. In other words, you don't need to understand everything before you start. You need to start, and then you'll begin to understand. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. No matter how many books you read about balance, no matter how many videos you watch or instructions you receive, the only way to really learn is by getting on the bike. You'll wobble, you'll fall, you'll feel unsure. But the moment you push the pedal and move forward, your body begins to understand. You adjust, you feel, you learn, not by thinking, but by doing. The same is true when learning English. Many learners wait for the moment when everything makes sense. They think, I'll speak when I feel ready, or I'll practice when I'm confident. But confidence doesn't come first. Action does. You have to open your mouth before you feel fluent. You have to try before you feel secure. You have to move before the road becomes clear. And when you do, when you finally take that first step, something powerful happens. Fear begins to fade, and understanding begins to grow. Let me give you a real example. Imagine you're trying to improve your listening skills. You're not sure where to start. Should you listen to podcasts, watch series, use subtitles, study transcripts? All of that can feel confusing. But if you simply choose one small action, maybe listening to 5 minutes of a podcast today, you've already started. And as you listen, you'll learn something. Maybe you notice that native speakers connect their words. Maybe you hear a phrase you want to remember. Maybe you understand less than you hoped, and that shows you what to focus on next. Either way, clarity comes, not because you waited for the perfect strategy, but because you took the first step.
We often think we need motivation to take action, but it also works the other way around. Action creates motivation. When you do something, even something small, your brain feels progress, and progress feels good. That feeling encourages you to do more, to keep going, to try again. And suddenly, something that once felt confusing starts to make sense. You begin to find your rhythm, not because you had all the answers, but because you had the courage to move. So, if you ever feel lost or unsure, don't stay stuck in your head. Don't wait until everything is perfect. Don't wait for the fear to disappear. Just take one small step. Speak one sentence. Write one idea. Listen to one new voice. Read one paragraph. That's enough to get things moving. And once you move, your path becomes clearer with every step. This is the beauty of action. It removes the fog. It helps you see what works and what doesn't. It gives you feedback. It teaches you faster than thinking ever could. It's messy, yes, imperfect, but it's real, and it's exactly what you need. Remember, clarity is not something you wait for. It's something you create. You create it by showing up, by engaging with the process, by stepping into the unknown, even when it feels uncomfortable. Especially when it feels uncomfortable, because that's where growth lives. You will never be 100% ready, and you don't have to be. The moment you begin, you are ready enough, and that's all you need to change everything. If you're still here, it shows you truly care about learning and improving your English through listening. So, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. It shows you value our work, and it gives us the motivation to keep creating more for you.
Chapter 6. Confidence comes after, not before. Confidence. It's something we all want. We admire people who speak with confidence, who walk into a room and express themselves clearly, who make mistakes without fear, who seem calm and sure of themselves. And naturally, we want to feel that same way too, especially when speaking a second language. But here's the truth most people don't talk about. Confidence doesn't come before you act. It comes after. It's not something you wait for before trying. It's something you earn by trying. Many learners believe they need to feel confident before they speak English out loud. They think, once I feel ready, I'll start speaking. But that moment never seems to come. Why? Because confidence doesn't show up out of nowhere. It's not a gift you receive. It's a result of showing up, a result of doing the thing even when it feels uncomfortable, awkward, or scary. Think back to something you once feared but learned to do anyway. Maybe it was driving for the first time, cooking a new recipe, going to a job interview, giving a presentation. Did you feel confident before you tried? Probably not. You felt nervous, insecure, maybe even terrified. But you did it anyway. And after you did it once, it became a little easier. The second time, you were less anxious. The third time, you were more in control. And slowly, confidence grew. Not from thinking, not from waiting, but from doing. It's the same with English. You don't need to wait until you feel fluent to speak. You need to speak in order to feel fluent. You don't need to understand every word before listening. You need to listen, get lost, and try again. You don't need perfect grammar to express your ideas. You need to start expressing them, and then your grammar will improve over time. This is how it works. Confidence is not the beginning of the journey. It's the reward. And here's the beautiful part. When you allow yourself to try without confidence, you begin to build something much more powerful: courage. Courage is what happens when you move forward even when you feel unsure, when you open your mouth even when your heart is racing, when you keep going even after a mistake. Courage is the bridge that carries you from fear to confidence. Without it, you stay stuck. With it, everything begins to change. Let's be honest. You will make mistakes. You will forget words. You will freeze in conversation. You will feel embarrassed at times. That's part of the learning process. It happens to everyone. Even native speakers forget words or get nervous when speaking in front of others. But here's what separates successful learners from those who give up. They don't wait to feel ready. They act. They practice. They take small risks again and again. And because of that, their confidence slowly grows like a muscle. So don't be afraid of feeling nervous. Don't let the lack of confidence stop you. Instead, accept that fear and action can exist together. You can feel scared and still try. You can feel insecure and still show up. And when you do, something amazing happens. Your fear loses its power. Your voice becomes stronger. Your belief in yourself becomes real. Not because you waited for it, but because you created it. Confidence is not the starting line. It's the finish line you reach by walking through your doubts. You're not supposed to have it all figured out right now. You're supposed to keep going, keep learning, keep practicing, day by day, word by word, step by step. That's how you build real confidence, the kind that stays with you, not because you were always sure, but because you proved to yourself that you could do it. So go ahead, speak even if your voice shakes, write even if your grammar isn't perfect, listen even if you don't understand everything. Trust the process. Confidence will come, not because you waited for it, but because you earned it.
Chapter 7. Fail Forward. The Power of Mistakes. Let's be honest. We're all afraid of making mistakes, especially when learning something as personal and vulnerable as a new language. The fear of saying the wrong word, choosing the wrong tense, or pronouncing something incorrectly can feel so strong that many people decide to stay silent. They wait. They hesitate. They avoid speaking until they feel perfectly prepared.
But here's a truth that may sound strange at first. Your mistakes are not the enemy. In fact, they are one of your most powerful tools for growth. When you make a mistake and survive it, when you say something wrong and the world doesn't fall apart, you begin to see mistakes for what they really are, stepping stones. Not signs of failure, not proof that you're not good enough, but proof that you're moving, you're learning, you're growing. Every time you make a mistake and learn from it, you move forward. You fail forward. Think about how we learn to walk as babies. We fall, a lot, and no one tells a baby, "You fell down again? Maybe walking just isn't for you." No, we cheer, we encourage, because we understand that falling is part of learning to walk. It's the same with English, or any skill really. If you're not making mistakes, you're probably not challenging yourself. And if you're not being challenged, you're not really learning. In fact, mistakes are your teachers. They show you what you don't know yet, which is exactly what you need to work on. Without them, you'd keep walking in circles, thinking you're improving while staying in your comfort zone. Mistakes point the way forward. They help you grow not just in skill, but in resilience. They teach you patience. They teach you how to handle imperfection. They teach you how to try again. There's also something very human, very beautiful about the vulnerability of making mistakes. It makes you relatable. It shows that you're brave enough to show up even when things aren't perfect. And believe it or not, native speakers often admire that courage. They know how hard it is to learn another language, and most will respect you for trying, even if you stumble, especially if you stumble and keep going.
What really matters is how you respond to your mistakes. Do you let them discourage you, or do you use them as fuel? Do you give up, or do you pause, reflect, and try again with more awareness? The learners who make the most progress are not the ones who make the fewest mistakes. They are the ones who stay curious, who keep showing up, who look at each mistake and think, "Okay, that didn't work. What can I do differently next time?" There's a mindset shift that changes everything. Instead of trying to avoid mistakes, start looking for them. Seek out situations that stretch you. Try saying things you're not sure about. Try writing without checking every word. Watch a movie without subtitles and see how much you can catch. Record yourself speaking. Listen back and notice what you could improve. Not to judge yourself, not to be perfect, but to grow. The more mistakes you make, the more data you have, the more feedback you collect. And if you're kind to yourself along the way, if you see mistakes as part of your progress rather than evidence of your limits, then you'll move faster and farther than you ever thought possible. So the next time you get something wrong, smile a little. Say to yourself, "Good, that means I'm learning." Because no one becomes fluent by memorizing rules alone. Fluency is earned through trial and error, through moments of confusion followed by clarity, through the courage to speak and the willingness to be corrected. Mistakes mean you're in the game. You're not watching from the sidelines. You're out there, taking chances, growing stronger, more capable, more confident. And with each mistake you make and each lesson you learn, You're not failing. You're failing forward. So embrace your errors. Make room for them. Laugh at them. Learn from them. And most of all, keep going. Because progress isn't a straight line. It's a messy, beautiful path filled with detours, wrong turns, and discoveries you can't find any other way. That's what real learning looks like. And you're right on track.
Chapter 8. You already have enough to begin. We often think we're missing something, that we need to study more, that we need the right course, the perfect teacher, a better accent, or more time. There's always this feeling that we're not quite ready yet, so we wait, we delay. We plan and prepare and imagine a better version of ourselves, one that will finally be confident enough to begin. But here's the truth. You don't need anything else to take the next step. You already have enough. Everything you need to begin is already within you. Yes, there's always more to learn, more to improve, more to refine. But starting doesn't require perfection. It just requires presence and courage and a willingness to begin from exactly where you are. You have a voice. You have thoughts and feelings and experiences worth sharing. You have curiosity. You have the ability to listen and to observe. You've made it this far, which means you've already overcome more than you realize. Maybe you've faced fear. Maybe you've doubted yourself. Maybe you failed. But you're still here, still trying, still showing up. That alone means you're more prepared than you think. The idea that we need to collect more knowledge before we act is a myth. Learning doesn't come from waiting. It comes from doing, from using what you know in real life, from putting your English into the world, no matter how unfinished it feels. You don't need to know every word in the dictionary. You don't need to speak like a native. What you need is to trust what you already know, and then build on it through practice. Look at children learning their first language. They don't wait until their grammar is perfect. They speak. They play with sounds. They repeat what they hear. They communicate as best as they can, using the limited vocabulary they have, and that's exactly how they grow. Why do we think adults have to do it differently? Instead of focusing on what you lack, start recognizing what you have. You know basic words. Great. Use them. You understand common expressions? Perfect. Say them out loud. You know how to introduce yourself. Practice it again and again until it feels effortless. Every small skill is a building block, and if you stack those blocks, one on top of the other, over time, you'll create something strong and steady.
What truly holds us back isn't a lack of knowledge, it's a lack of belief. We underestimate our ability to begin from where we are. We look at others and think, they're so far ahead, I'll never catch up. But comparison is a trap. The only person you need to measure yourself against is the person you were yesterday. And if you're one step ahead of that person today, then you're winning. Try this. Instead of saying, I'm not ready, ask, what can I do right now with what I already know? Maybe you can describe your morning routine in English. Maybe you can write a short message to a friend. Maybe you can listen to a podcast and repeat one sentence out loud. That's how it begins, with small actions taken from exactly where you are, using what you already have. When you start moving, something powerful happens. You begin to realize just how much is already inside you. Confidence doesn't come from preparation alone. It comes from action, from the experience of trying, struggling, adapting, and growing. And the more you act, the more your inner resources, your creativity, your memory, your persistence begin to reveal themselves. So pause for a moment and really hear this. You are not empty. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not unprepared. You have everything you need to take the next step. Not all the steps, just the next one. And that's more than enough. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting to feel ready. The only thing you need to begin is the decision to begin. The rest will come. As you move, you'll gather what's missing. You'll learn what you need. You'll build strength you didn't know you had. The tools are within you. Your willingness is the key. And your journey starts now, not someday, not when you feel more confident, not when you know more words, but today, with your imperfect sentences, with your real, honest effort, with your brave heart and your open mind. You already have enough, so start.
Chapter 9. Discipline beats motivation. Let's be honest, there are days when you just don't feel like it. You don't feel like studying, practicing, speaking, or even thinking in English. The energy isn't there. The spark is gone. And in those moments, motivation, if it ever shows up at all, feels like a visitor who never stays long enough. This is where most people stop. They wait for motivation to return, as if it were the fuel for everything. But what if I told you that the real key to long-term progress isn't motivation at all? It's discipline. Discipline is a choice, a quiet, powerful decision to show up even when you don't feel like it. Discipline means opening your notebook even when you're tired. Listening to that podcast when your mind says, maybe tomorrow. Repeating a sentence out loud even when you feel silly. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. It's not about doing a lot at once. It's about doing something consistently. You don't have to study for hours. You don't need a perfect routine. But you do need to keep moving. Even if today you only have 5 minutes, use those 5 minutes. That act of showing up, especially when it's hard, is what builds real strength. Because motivation might get you started, but discipline is what keeps you going. Think of it this way. Motivation is like a wave. It rises, it falls. Some days you'll catch a big one and feel on top of the world. But other days the sea will be calm and no wave will come. If you wait for the wave, you might never move. Discipline is your paddle. It's what lets you move forward no matter what the ocean is doing. And here's something powerful. Discipline actually creates motivation. When you keep showing up, when you keep doing the work, you start to see progress. You feel a little more confident. You notice that you understand more than before. That's when motivation returns, not because you waited for it, but because you earned it through your actions.
We often think we need to feel inspired in order to act. But in reality,
It's the other way around. When you act, inspiration follows. When you keep your promises to yourself, even in the smallest ways, you build trust, and that trust becomes the foundation of your learning. There will be days when everything feels heavy, when progress feels invisible, when you doubt if it's even worth it. But that's exactly when discipline matters most. Because on those days, just by showing up, you are growing stronger. You are proving to yourself that you're committed, not just to English, but to your own evolution. Discipline doesn't mean being strict or harsh with yourself. It means being loyal to your goals. It's a form of self-respect. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment or for everything to feel easy. You simply need to keep moving, gently, patiently, and with intention. Imagine what your life would look like if you relied less on fleeting motivation and more on steady, quiet discipline. Imagine the fluency you could build, the confidence, the inner peace that comes from knowing you're doing the work even when it's hard. That's the kind of consistency that leads to real transformation. So the next time motivation disappears, and it will, don't see it as a sign to stop. See it as an invitation to practice discipline, to show yourself that you are capable of moving forward regardless of how you feel. That's how habits are built. That's how breakthroughs happen. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not loud, but it's powerful. And if you let it guide you, it will take you further than motivation ever could. So remember, you don't need to feel like doing it. You just need to do it. That's where the magic happens. If you're still here, it shows you truly care about learning and improving your English through listening. So please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. It shows you value our work, and it gives us the motivation to keep creating more for you.
Chapter 10. Progress over Perfection. We all want to get things right. Deep inside, most of us carry this invisible pressure, the need to be perfect. We don't want to make mistakes. We don't want to sound strange. We don't want others to judge us or laugh at us. And because of that fear, many people delay their progress. They wait until they feel ready. They wait until they know everything, until their accent is perfect, until they can speak without hesitation, until they feel completely confident. But here's the truth. Perfection is not the goal. In fact, perfection doesn't even exist. What really matters is progress. Learning a language is messy. It's full of ups and downs. One day you understand a lot, and the next day you feel like you forgot everything. Some days your words flow naturally, and other days you can't remember even the simplest sentence. That's not failure. That's growth. Progress is not a straight line. It's a journey full of twists, pauses, surprises, and restarts. And the sooner you accept that, the more freedom you will feel. Perfection tells you to wait. Progress tells you to move. Perfection whispers, don't try it until you're sure. Progress says, try it, learn from it, and keep going. If you only practice when you're sure you won't make mistakes, you'll never truly practice. Because language isn't just something you learn. It's something you use. And when you use it, you will make mistakes. That's not a flaw in the process. That is the process. Think about how children learn to speak. They make hundreds of mistakes every day. They pronounce things wrong. They mix up words. They create strange, funny sentences. And yet no one tells them to stop until they're perfect. We expect them to learn by doing. So why do we expect ourselves as adults to do it differently? Why do we think we need to be perfect before we open our mouths? Perfection is a form of fear. It hides behind high standards and good intentions, but at its core, it's fear. Fear of failure. Fear of looking weak. Fear of being judged. But if you want to grow, not just in English, but in life, you have to get comfortable with imperfection. You have to show up even when you feel unsure. You have to speak even when your grammar isn't perfect. You have to write even if it's full of errors. Because every action you take, no matter how small, moves you forward. Progress doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like listening to a podcast and only understanding 30%. Sometimes it looks like repeating the same sentence 5 times before it sounds right. Sometimes it looks like freezing during a conversation and then trying again later. And all of that counts. All of that is progress. The mistake many people make is waiting for the moment when everything feels smooth and easy. But ease comes after effort, not before. You earn fluency through practice, not perfection.
And here's the beautiful part. When you shift your focus from perfection to progress, you begin to enjoy the process. You start to see each mistake as a lesson, not a failure. You begin to notice the little victories, a phrase you understood, a word you remembered, a sentence you finally said with confidence. These moments are tiny, but they're powerful. They're proof that you are growing, step by step, word by word. Let go of the idea that you need to get it all right. Let go of the pressure to sound like a native speaker. That will come with time. For now, focus on movement. Focus on showing up, practicing, repeating, failing, laughing, and trying again. Because each time you do, you're becoming a better version of yourself. Not a perfect version, a real, courageous, evolving version. Progress is humble. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. But it builds something lasting. It's what separates those who dream of speaking English from those who actually do it. Not talent, not perfection, just steady, imperfect, beautiful progress. So ask yourself, what can I do today to move forward? Not perfectly, but honestly. Maybe it's listening to this podcast again. Maybe it's repeating a few key phrases. Maybe it's sending a short message in English to someone. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be real. Because real practice leads to real results. You don't need to be perfect to begin. You just need to begin. And keep going. That's how fluency is built. That's how confidence is earned. That's how progress becomes your path. Not because everything is right, but because you're moving anyway.
Chapter 11. Comparison Kills Momentum. It starts quietly. You open your phone, scroll through social media, and suddenly you see someone speaking English fluently. Their accent sounds perfect. Their vocabulary is rich. They speak with confidence, smile, and make it look effortless. And then, without even noticing, a thought enters your mind. I'll never be that good. That small thought can become a heavy weight. Instead of feeling inspired, you start to feel defeated. Instead of focusing on your progress, you start focusing on your limitations. And just like that, comparison steals your energy, your motivation, and your desire to keep moving forward. Comparison is one of the biggest enemies of growth. Not because others are better than you, but because when you compare your start to someone else's middle, or your practice to their performance, you are setting yourself up to feel like a failure. And when you feel like a failure, you stop trying. You lose momentum. But here's something you must remember. Everyone starts somewhere. That person you admire, they struggled too. They made mistakes. They forgot words. They felt nervous. You just didn't see that part. What you see now is the result of days, months, or even years of quiet effort. What you see is the highlight, not the whole story. Learning English, or anything meaningful in life, is a personal journey. It's not a race. There's no one right path or perfect speed. Some people learn quickly. Others need more time. Some feel confident speaking. Others feel more comfortable writing or listening. And that's okay. Your journey is yours. Your voice is unique. Your progress is real, even if it looks different from someone else's. The problem with comparison is that it makes you forget how far you've come. It makes you ignore the fact that just a few months ago, you didn't know this much. You couldn't understand this much. You weren't even listening to English podcasts or trying to speak. But now you are. That matters. That's powerful progress. Instead of comparing yourself to others, try comparing yourself to yourself. Look at where you were yesterday, last week, last month. Celebrate the small steps. Did you understand a sentence today that confused you last week? That's growth. Did you finally say a phrase out loud that you were afraid to try? That's courage. Did you stay consistent even when you didn't feel like studying? That's discipline. Comparison focuses on what you lack, but reflection focuses on what you've gained. One drains your energy. The other builds your momentum. One leaves you feeling empty. The other fills you with pride and motivation. Also, remember this, people usually share their best moments. You rarely see the struggle, the self-doubt, the days they didn't want to continue. You see the result, but not the effort. So don't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's final performance. You are not behind. You are not slow. You are exactly where you need to be. When you feel the urge to compare, pause, breathe, remind yourself, their journey is theirs, my journey is mine. I am doing the work. I am growing. I'm improving. That mindset will protect your energy and allow your motivation to grow naturally. The more you respect your own pace, the more progress you'll make. Comparison creates pressure, and pressure creates paralysis. But self-kindness creates movement, and movement creates momentum. And momentum is what turns small steps into big transformation. So today, make this promise to yourself. I will not compare. I will commit. I will keep showing up not because I'm the best, but because I'm dedicated. I will keep practicing, not to impress others, but to grow for myself. And I will remind myself every day that progress is not about perfection, it's about persistence. Your journey is valid. Your progress is real, and your voice deserves to be heard, just as it is, without comparison, without apology and without fear.
Chapter 12. You learn by doing, not by thinking. Let's be honest. Thinking feels safe. You sit in your room, you imagine yourself speaking English fluently, understanding everything, answering questions with confidence. You think about how one day, maybe, you'll travel, have a conversation with a native speaker, or get that job that requires English. And while you're thinking, it feels like you're preparing. It feels like you're moving forward. But thinking is not the same as doing. Real learning doesn't happen in your imagination. It happens in action, in real moments, real attempts, real mistakes, and real effort. You can spend hours reading about grammar, watching videos about pronunciation, or planning the perfect study routine. But until you open your mouth and actually speak, until you listen and try to understand, until you take a risk and put your skills to the test, you haven't truly started learning. Learning by doing means embracing imperfection. It means being okay with sounding strange, forgetting words, or making mistakes in front of others. It means understanding that the goal is not to be perfect, but to be real. When you speak, even with mistakes, your brain begins to build connections, faster, stronger, and deeper than it ever could through theory alone. Every time you try, your muscles learn the movement of the words. Your ears become more familiar with the rhythm of the language. Your mouth starts to shape the sounds more naturally. That's how real progress happens, not in your thoughts, but in your actions. Many people delay their learning because they're waiting to feel ready. They think, I'll speak when I know more words, or I'll practice when I'm less nervous. But that day never comes, because readiness is not something that arrives before action. It is something that grows through action. You become ready by doing. The more you do, the more confident you feel. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. So instead of asking yourself, am I ready? Ask, am I willing to start even if it's messy? Because that's where the magic lives, in the messy, awkward, honest attempts that slowly become skill. Think of a child learning to walk. They don't study walking. They don't sit and plan every movement. They just try. They fall. They try again. And with every stumble, they learn something new. They don't wait until they're strong enough or confident enough. They walk into learning. And that's exactly what language learners need to do. You can't wait until you feel fluent to speak. You must speak to become fluent. When you start doing, really doing, everything changes. That podcast you used to just listen to, now you pause and repeat out loud. That phrase you used to read silently, now you say it in front of the mirror. That new word you learned yesterday, you try using it in a sentence today. These are small actions, yes, but they create real learning. Not imagined learning, not theoretical understanding, real, lived, felt progress. And yes, you'll make mistakes. You'll feel awkward. You'll probably feel frustrated. But every one of those moments is a gift. Every mistake is a lesson. Every uncomfortable effort is a step forward. You can't avoid this stage, but you can embrace it. You can remind yourself, this is how I learn. This is how I grow. This is how I become the version of myself I dream about. So stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect lesson, or the perfect plan. Just begin. Speak one sentence today. Try one conversation. Listen to something new. Write something small. Take action, no matter how tiny it feels. because thinking about English will never give you fluency. But doing something in English every single day absolutely will. You learn by doing, always. So do. Start now and keep going. Chapter 13. Your future self is waiting. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself in the future. Not years and years ahead, but just a version of you maybe 6 months, 1 year, or even 2 years from now. That version of you wakes up with more confidence. That version of you doesn't hesitate when speaking English, doesn't freeze when someone asks a question in another language. You express your thoughts clearly. You participate in meetings. You hold conversations with people from different countries, and you understand movies, podcasts, or YouTube videos without needing subtitles. You smile more because you're no longer trapped in silence or self-doubt. Now ask yourself, what did that version of you do to get there? What did they sacrifice? What habits did they build? That version of you didn't appear out of nowhere. They were built day by day, choice by choice, repetition by repetition, and you are building them right now. The truth is, the future is not a distant event that suddenly arrives. It is something we shape in the present. And whether we realize it or not, we are always becoming someone. The question is, who are you becoming? Are you moving closer to your goals or further away from them? Every time you decide to practice instead of postpone, to try again instead of quit, you are casting a vote for the person you want to be. And those votes matter. The progress may feel invisible now, but it's happening. It's happening in your brain as you listen to English daily, as your ears begin to recognize patterns, as your mouth learns to form new sounds. Even when it feels slow or frustrating, you are growing. Your future self is watching you from the distance, cheering you on, hoping you don't give up, because everything they are becoming depends on what you do today. Sometimes we look at where we are now and feel like it's too far from where we want to be. We say things like, "I'm not good at this," or "It's taking too long," or "Maybe this just isn't for me." But that's just your current self speaking out of fear, not your future self speaking from faith. The person you want to become isn't doubting you. They know how far you've come. They know what's possible if you stay consistent, and they're waiting for you, not impatiently, but with love, with belief, with the quiet strength that comes from persistence. You don't need to be perfect to meet them. You just need to keep moving forward.
And you know what's even more powerful? The person you are right now has already survived so many challenges. You've overcome obstacles, faced setbacks, and still kept going. That resilience, that quiet courage, it already lives in you. You don't need to go looking for it. You don't need to be anyone else. You just need to keep showing up for yourself, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when no one is watching, because your future self is counting on that. They're depending on the strength of your present actions. Learning a new language is not just about vocabulary and grammar. It's about changing how you see yourself. It's about discovering that you are more capable, more adaptable, and more intelligent than you thought. It's about pushing through the discomfort of being a beginner and trusting that fluency is not a talent, but a result. Your future self doesn't need you to be the best. They just need you to be committed, to keep listening, to keep repeating, to keep learning, even when progress feels invisible. Because eventually, all those invisible layers will become visible. And when they do, you'll realize it was never about sudden transformation. It was about the quiet work, the daily practice, the simple decision to keep trying. So the next time you feel stuck or discouraged, do this. Close your eyes and imagine that future version of yourself, the one who already achieved what you're working for. Ask them what they would tell you. They would probably say, "Please don't stop now. You're closer than you think. You're stronger than you know. Keep going. I'm waiting for you." Let that version of you guide your choices today. Let them give you the strength to try again. Because every moment you choose growth, you step closer to becoming the person you were always meant to be. Your future self is not some distant dream. They are real. They are possible. And more importantly, they are worth fighting for.
Chapter 14. Start now, adjust later. There's a myth that paralyzes millions of people around the world. The idea that we have to be completely ready before we begin. That everything must be in place. The plan must be perfect, the tools must be flawless, our confidence must be solid, and the timing must feel just right. But here's the truth. If you wait until you're ready, you'll never start. Because readiness is not a destination you arrive at. It's a state you build along the journey. Real growth, real transformation, real learning, they don't happen in the planning phase. They happen in motion. And that's why the most powerful advice you can give yourself is this: start now, adjust later. It doesn't matter if your accent isn't perfect yet. It doesn't matter if you make grammar mistakes or if you need subtitles to follow a conversation. What matters is that you begin, that you open your mouth and try, that you listen, repeat, stumble, and try again. You don't need the perfect course or the most expensive app. You don't need to move to another country or wait until your schedule clears. All you need is a decision, a willingness to start where you are with what you have and grow from there. Because once you're in motion, everything starts changing. You begin to learn what works for you. You discover your gaps. You build habits, confidence, and momentum. But none of that happens if you just keep planning and never move. Think of any skill you've learned in life: walking, writing, riding a bike, cooking, using a computer. None of these things were perfect at the start. You began awkwardly. You made mistakes. You learned as you went. And yet, you didn't stop. You didn't say, "I'm not ready to walk," or "I'll wait until I never fall to get on the bike." No, you moved forward anyway. You adjusted step by step. Why? Because that's how human beings grow, through action, through correction, through real-world experience. Language is no different. You don't learn to speak English by studying it forever. You learn by using it, today, even if imperfectly. Waiting for the perfect moment is often just fear in disguise. Fear of being judged, fear of failing, fear of not being good enough. And those fears are understandable, but they are illusions too.
Because no one becomes good without first being bad. No one becomes confident without first feeling insecure. What separates people who grow from those who stay stuck isn't talent, it's courage. The courage to begin before you feel ready. The courage to move while you're still unsure. The courage to say, I'll figure it out as I go. That mindset doesn't just change your English, it changes your entire life.
You're going to make mistakes. That's a guarantee. But every mistake is information. Every stumble is feedback. Every awkward conversation is a step closer to fluency. You don't have to know everything. You just have to be willing to learn. And the only way to truly learn is to do. Start speaking, even if your sentences are broken. Start listening, even if you understand only 30%. Start writing, even if it takes you twice as long. Because through that messy, imperfect process, you become better. You improve. You grow. And most importantly, you begin to trust yourself. People spend months, even years, preparing to begin. They research methods, watch videos, buy books, and wait for motivation to strike like lightning. But progress doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. Every day you delay is a day of lost progress. And the truth is, you already have everything you need to begin. You have your voice. You have your ears. You have your curiosity. You have access to more English content than any generation before you. You have your phone, your mind, and your will. That's enough, more than enough. Now the only thing left is action. And here's the beautiful part. Once you start, you don't have to stay stuck. You can always adjust. You can improve your methods, change your strategy, try new tools, ask for help. But none of those adjustments matter if you never take the first step. The path will reveal itself as you walk it, not before. So don't waste time trying to design the perfect route. Just start walking. Your future self will thank you, not because you were perfect, but because you were brave. You'll never feel completely ready, and that's okay. Readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. A moment of quiet courage when you say, I may not have it all figured out, but I'm starting anyway. Start now. Adjust later.